Welcome back to another episode here on the Heart and Hustle podcast. Our next guest says people don't want charity, they want independence. They want the chance to live their life to their fullest potential. Mr. Donald, I appreciate you coming, man. From
No
accountant to
problem.
CEO, 30 years in one organization, my
30
brother.
years
That's
is a long time. I had a little more black hair back then than I do now, but it's been a long time.
it's pretty rare, man. Why has Arc of New York been your life's work for so long?
I think I connect with the mission that people should be included in society. And the organization has invested in me. I'm a very loyal person, and I feel like I'm giving back to them by continuing the mission and the work we do.
I love it, man. What first drew you back in 95, if I'm not mistaken? That's 30 years ago, right?
Yeah,
What
actually,
brought you to the Arc?
well, it was a weird situation. I was working with the United Jewish Federation at the time, and I was almost needing to move from the Albany area to New Jersey because they were relocating. And I saw this job at the Arc, and I went in. And at the time in the 90s, there was about 100 applicants, if you can picture that now. And we had a great conversation, and it was more talking about people. And then when I started, I felt like instantly like I could make a difference by processing my ability to do numbers, to help people in their lives, and it just connected and it's resonated for me even now. It's pretty humbling.
And those 30 years really went through some growth, right? We started in finance, you go to
Yep.
COO, now you're CEO. What did all these roles teach you about leadership in general?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. So I view things as being on a bus. And I got on the ARC bus, and I've been staying on it. Some people get on and off at various times. As a director of finance, my role was kind of this is the dashboard. I needed to make sure there was gas every day, and I did reports and would report out. And then when I moved into the CFO role, it was more let's find out better ways to get gas. Maybe there's strategies we can use to help people better in their lives. And not only, and then when I moved into the chief operating officer role, it kind of blended a lot of those. I mean, I was only in that for a short period of time, and sometimes it was kind of unofficial because I was the CFO and I kind of like saw a need for the organization to get people together, to people we support, people that were working for us to help us revenue, help change their lives. And then when I became CEO, it's kind of just put the focus more on the employees both side too, and say we really need to take care of our employees for them to be taking care of the individuals we support.
You mentioned something which is sometimes I was playing different roles, wearing different hats, and that's what happens in the nonprofit world. Sometimes I
Oh
think
yeah,
it's actually the most exciting part
it
is
is.
that we get to be very creative, we get to be ourselves, we get to bring
Yes.
all our talents. And in the
Yeah.
corporate world, I always say you hired for a position, that's what they want you to do for the most part. But
Right.
the nonprofit world is a little different. But I also did want to talk about because when you think about this nonprofit, you say it isn't just about charity, it's really about inclusion, especially in the space that you're in. Can
Yep.
you tell us what that actually means when you talk about in action?
Yeah, so the people we support and even the way our management team forever has been trying to do it is, we're not here just to take money from society. We're here actually to help society improve it. And the first thing is we're recognizing that, I'm not hired by the Arc of Rensselaer County Board of Directors, which I am, but I'm really working for the individuals. The organization is here to support individuals live their lives better. We're not making sure our bus is the best seats. It's all about their experience on the bus. And trying to bring that to like decision making is we always try to say, well, all right, it's about the individuals. What can we do for the individuals? And B, we tried, and I think we've been pretty successful at making the least impact on Rensselaer County. We rent a lot of our homes. We run our main office, so all those things stayed on the tax rolls. We try to do business locally with local vendors as much as possible, even buying vehicles from local dealers and things like that. And it's that partnership where we go into the community, we assist, we provide volunteer time. And also the individuals we support, they don't want charity either. They want to be included in society. They don't want to be, getting people secondhand things and everything like that. They want to be included. They want to work. They want to bring their skills to our community in the greater capital region.
I sit here and I see the kids behind you, and I'm a
Mhm.
father myself. And in the line of work that we do, man, we just hope to inspire the next generation. Not only the people that we work with, but those that are in our world, right? With our
Mhm.
families, our kids. What were your kids thinking about? I mean, 30 years, man, they seen dad go at it. What are their thoughts seeing dad do this for so long?
I think they're humbled by it. I think they actually joke with me like I'm the mayor because I've been doing this so long. Every time I go somewhere, I run into someone I know. And sometimes it's funny. I was even in like New York City and my son, and we're walking down the street, and one of my colleagues from another chapter is like, "Hey, Don." He's like, "Do you not know someone everywhere?" Like,
That is
um,
funny.
I think also what they've learned is to kind of live with more kindness in their life, and I hopefully that's like I wish that's a lesson I can give everybody. You know, we never
No,
know
for
what
sure.
someone's going through, and to just be kind and humble doesn't mean it's pushover, but just be kind and humble to people and meet them where they're at is a blessing.
Simple things in life, man. Like you just said, just be kind to hello, wave at somebody,
Right.
hold the door
The
open for
door, right, yeah.
someone.
Right.
Simple things,
Or
man.
thanks someone who, like we just had a waitress and she like messed up our complete order. She's like, "Oh man, I'm so sorry." I'm like, "It's my eggs. Like I'll get over it. I'll live."
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That it's not the end of life, and
Right.
and as you mentioned, just be kind because you don't know what someone's going through. It could really be the difference between life and death for someone.
It is
Um,
unfortunate. It is.
so I love that you're in the space of giving, man. When you think about 30 years ago, I know that's a long ways, man. I'm 35 years old, so if I
All
think
right.
about 30 years ago, Donald, I
Wow.
was 5 years old. You know what I mean?
Wow.
So for me, it felt like a long time ago. Um, but did you always want to be in this space? Like you leaving high school, did you always think I'm in the nonprofit world, I'm a CEO to an organization, or who did Donald want to be?
I wanted to be the CFO of IBM, but I never
Really?
did.
Wow,
Yeah,
you had
my
that
dad
locked
was
in.
my dad was an accountant, and I wanted to kind of work with that corporation. And just then, computers were just starting,
Yeah.
or kind of in their infancy. And I was like, yeah, I wish someday I can do that and get all the riches of being a corporate CEO. But I never made it.
Hey, you got something better.
I
Big
do.
believer, and I can imagine you are as well, is that we have these beautiful plans for our lives, and God said, well, this is the plan that I have for you.
Yep.
And, you followed the plan, and here you are 30 years later. I can imagine that there has been a lot of growth, which is what I would love to talk about. When you
Sure.
look at the organization 30 years ago, that's a long time. How long has
Really
this
a long
organization
time.
been around, actually?
We've been around since we're 1965 is kind of our initial for ours. Although the chapter started in 1952, part of another, a couple different chapters in New York.
Wow.
So
So,
that's been a
yeah.
long time. And actually, this organization, I believe, is blessed on some level. Jim Flanagan was before me, was the CEO from 74 to 2009, and then Hans Meiser from 2009 to 2018, and then myself. And we all worked together for, 20 years at least. So it's
Wow.
kind of like a continual, kind of a passing of the baton type of thing, which is humbling. And I still interact with those guys and call them. We were probably $5 million then. We're approaching $40 million now annually. So that's changed. We didn't have an HR department. We didn't have nurses. We didn't have PTs. All those things have been added. It's kind of humbling. And actually, I was just thinking about this the other day because Windows just turned 30. And you
Wow.
think of Microsoft, they're kind of like the innovators.
Yep.
They've had 11 different operating systems in my lifetime here, and just think, I think the Arc of Rensselaer County has probably changed over, 800 times. We get different funding, we get different rates. We don't even know it's our rate sometimes at the end of the year. And the ability to be able to support people and staff, I believe, has increased, a hundredfold since I've been here. I mean, when we started, I was kind of, orientation was here's your desk, figure out what you need to do. And now hopefully we're getting a little bit better than that these days.
So let's talk about it, man. Digitally, nonprofits usually fall a little bit behind.
Yep.
It seems like you're within the times, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where do we
Yep.
see ourselves innovation-wise, especially with a little bit of AI being the hot topic everyone's talking about? Are there some things that you guys have already maybe in stone that's going to set you up for more 30 more years, or things that you guys are working on?
Definitely, we have to look at things. And one of the things that I want to try to do, which we're in the infancy of doing now, is trying to figure out how do we help the people we support interact with AI.
Mm,
How do we make AI a ramp to the future for them as opposed to a wall that's going to close them off because they're not in it. And I think there's a lot of things we do. We need AI companies to engage with the nonprofit community, especially people with disabilities, and try to figure out, meet them where they're at. We're also doing some cool things. I recently had a great experience of talking to Simon Sinek, who wrote the book of Why. Me and him were interchanging about, kind of different ideas what to do about that. And, a brief 5-10 minute question or conversation, but we talked about inviting. But my thought has always been, how do we get the individual? It's about the individual. I can't force things on them or keep them out because I think I'm keeping them safe. So one of the things we're doing is we're inviting a team of 5 people. That individual will identify who those 5 people are and sit down and say, all right, let's look at options for AI. We'll probably need some technology assistants come in and try to say to someone, help me figure out what's the best way to do this, but also help the individual figure out what they want and how they want to be involved in it. Where we're not just saying, oh, you can't do that because you have a disability, or we're going to put this in place because you have a disability, where they get to make that decision for themselves and kind of help them, empower them to be part of the solution. And maybe it won't, maybe it will. I think there will be things that will help. We have some things now where we have an individual who time isn't his best thing, so he has an app that tells him every day, you go to work this time, you go to lunch this time, you go to the doctor's this time, and that's empowering because he doesn't need someone to call him every day. He can just look at his app, right?
You
What's
know,
more empowering than
sometimes,
that?
yeah, sometimes we just need a little bit of convenience. So if it's an app, let's do it. If it's a little bit of software, I mean, that's just the life
Right,
that we live in. We need a little bit of convenience to make
right,
our day just
right.
that much better.
We have that,
Um,
and then other uses of AI we're doing is just kind of helping us, source data. Data is important for everybody, including nonprofits. Nonprofit is just a tax code. We're still a business. We still got to operate like a business. And I'm excited to try to use the numbers to try to help us provide better supports.
I'm glad that you said it. A lot of leaders don't realize it, but when it comes to AI, before they ever go look into AI,
Mm-hmm.
data is so important
All right.
because it's what you're putting into this AI
Right.
that's going to give you the output. And
Right.
you know that you've been in this space.
Yep.
Clearly, you talk about IBM, you're talking about
Mm-hmm.
Microsoft. I can tell you're in this world of technology.
Yep.
To even think Microsoft is 30 years old is kind of crazy. Do you
It is
remember
crazy.
Donald? Actually, do you remember? I remember in elementary, all the color. I think it may have been Apple. All the color computers. Was it Apple or was it?
Might have been Apple.
Oh my God, I remember those see-through computers. There was a red, there was a
Yeah. Yeah.
green.
Yeah. Yeah.
And how cool it was. You walk into this computer room. Back in the days, we had computer rooms. How crazy.
Right.
And it
Right.
was just all
Right.
these different color computers, man. I
Right.
miss
Right.
those days,
Now,
man. I
now
miss
our
those days.
computer sits right here, right?
Yeah, I tell that because, teachers used to always say that you'll never have a calculator in your pocket. They forgot to tell us, but we'll have a computer in our pockets,
Right.
as you
Right. Right.
mentioned.
Right.
You
We
know what I
talked
found the
about
other day,
that.
man? Look what I found.
There you go.
If you showed the young kids these, they're like, "What is this?"
No, they won't. And
I would
actually,
love to see what's in it.
I had an opportunity to talk to a local high school class about that, and it was crazy. It was something like 1,400 versions of the phone has been out since their birth, and they were like 14 years old.
That
Like,
is wow,
like
insane. Yeah,
to be adaptable.
my first phone was the Motorola flip phone. I think that's what
Yep,
it was.
yep.
Man, yeah, times have definitely changed.
Yep.
All these years, what are you most proud of, Donald?
That's a good question. I think probably the connections I have with the community, where I kind of know our employees. I know our folks that we support, and I use that kind of as a driving force because it gets tough. That it's a nonprofits are complex. Funding's always a challenge. We wish we could pay our staff more, and I think it's that ability to kind of stay in the fray and come back every day. It's you get knocked down, and what's that song go? I get knocked down, I get up again.
Yeah,
We're gonna keep
yeah,
it
yeah. There you
down.
go, Donald. There you go.
That plays
um,
sometimes on my little iPhone. I use music sometimes to kind of bring me back into the fold. So
Hey, real quick, if you're enjoying the podcast, we first want to say thank you. And we also just want to give you a little insight of what we're up to at Francis. Some don't even realize that we're working with organizations to help them use AI to create that real human communication experiences, where that's actually supporting your families, those patients, or the entire community. We're actually creating tech that connects. Check it out, Francis.ai. Oh man, there at home there was this radio station that went away, and now it comes back, same radio station, but all they do is just play all the old school hits. And I'm
Mm.
like in the car with the kids, and I'm just like, wow, music has changed in general. Okay, music is just not the same, but
It has. But it's
I
still
love
good.
that you.
It's still good.
Yeah, no, it is. I want to talk about. You mentioned a little bit about business mindset in the
Mm.
nonprofit leadership. As you mentioned, and I'm a big believer that yeah, a nonprofit is a business.
Yeah.
One, when it comes to for-profit and nonprofit, one we caters to stock to their board, and the other one to what shareholders,
Yeah.
right? But they're both businesses in a sense. Why do people underestimate the business side of nonprofit leadership? Do you think it's just this myth that goes around? Like, what are your thoughts on that?
I think it's a myth. I think they think we're a charity. I think they truly think we're not supposed to run a profit. Where really the
Mm,
nonprofit is just a tax code. It's nothing more than the tax code. We still have to have the same financial metrics that everyone else has to have. In 2002, I remember talking with Hans, my boss, and we put in, current ratio metrics and all kinds of targets for metrics. Now it's like the rage, and it's like, well, we've been doing these for like 25 years. Like, what? It's really kind of having that mindset when you have to be fiscally responsible as well. Like you're giving public money, and you have to use it for the purpose that you're supposed to use it for, and you try to do that the best you can. And at the end of the day, what's more humbling than having a great product, which is impacting someone's life? So that kind of sets the frame. At the end of the day, you always got to look at the end of what we do is people's lives, both our people we support and our employees. So we have to be diligent. We have to make sure we have all the right financial. You talked earlier about data and numbers. They're only good if you can use it to tell a story, right? Like, we can
yeah,
get data and data and data, but if we can't pull it together to tell a story, it's really not going to help us. And I got
that's
my
what makes
Irish
people buy in.
background, so I got the storytelling from my mom, so um, it helps.
Looks like life set you up to be here. You're talking about the storytelling. You have to be a storyteller in the nonprofit space. And when you have good data, you allow people to realize what they're actually buying into,
Yeah.
right? That it really clarifies where their dollars are going. And if you
Mm-hmm.
have that information, yeah, you're winning for sure. And I think you're also winning, man. You have some great business principles, just this business mindset. What do you when you think about these principles, um, which principles do you live by that make the arc a little stronger?
I think I incorporate a lot of them into together. It's really putting the people first, and it's leaning on my math first, and then going with my heart and emotions second. And I was kind of smart in school. Everyone was looking for the best GPA. I paid for my college education myself because my father passed away when I was young. And I'm like, I'm taking every single accounting class. I don't care if and I got, all I know is I want to walk out with a B. And I was a little bit better than a B, but I gained all the knowledge of every one of those little, classes. And then when I came to the ARC, one of the things I had to do is do this report that they have. It's called a consolidated fiscal report. And I had 2 years to do because they were behind. That was back in the day. We're not behind now. And by doing those, it kind of opened the light to me. It was like, oh, that's how this all works. And I've used that lens and that frame for the last 30 years of saying, all right, well, we need, if someone will tell me, something happened and I can, all right, yeah, that's going to impact us on our rates in 3 years from now. And it's just kind of ingrained in me. And I think it's kind of all that, using all your tools that you can to help people be better.
And we talk about looking at numbers. I think you mentioned to me that you've doubled staff salaries since
Yes.
2018.
Yep.
That's a business mission win, man. How did you
Oh,
do
yeah.
it? Is it that? Is looking at the data and just seeing the future?
Some of it was data. Some of it was helping with storytelling by advocating. We went years in New York without increases, and right now the current administration has been helping us, and we've been blessed, and we've been taking all those funds that they give us and put it right back to where it's supposed to go. And it is awesome for me. I wish I could go even more, and we're trying to do even cool things with housing for people that we support, or people that work for us. Yeah, it was kind of a combination of math and tweaking and like looking at like everything that came in and saying, all right, we need to do this. If we get more units here, and really that's how it is. If we can provide units of service, that's how we get paid. We can then spend that money into staff salaries and pay staff a living wage. Um,
What do you think is
And
a ripple effect when you invest in employees who support the vulnerable population?
I think it's rewarding for the employee because they get better living situation. I think it's
Hmm.
equally rewarding from the individuals because people, how can we ask staff to take care of someone if we can't take care of them?
Yeah.
Right? I mean, their job is to take care of someone, to meet their daily needs, help them grow in society, help them build in their lives. And if we can't do that ourselves, then how can we ask them for that every day
Hmm.
and keep coming back every day? And I'm a tireless advocate. People will tell you, I may not always hit the right lane, but I will, anytime I get an opportunity to speak on behalf of the staff, I will. And I always use this frame, 100% of our employees are people, and we need to treat them like that.
That's it, man. I
And
think that's what we all have to remember is that we're all people. I was talking to my neighbor and he was talking about his uncle, and he always likes to say, and he's a doctor, so I listen to him, or he's a cop, so and I was like, he's a human at the end of the day. Like, it's not that he's a doctor, it's not that he's, he was in law enforcement. He's human, so that's how he thinks. And I think, so many times we think the doctor is so much better and this
right,
person's so much better, and it's like, they're not.
right,
That's just happened to be the career they chose. We all chose our career, but there's electricians that are so much further than a doctor.
mhm,
Why? Because of the mindset, the way that we think, the way that our values.
mhm,
So I love that you mentioned that we are just people.
right.
Even those in the space that you're in, they're just people.
I love
And
that frame you
and
have. That's a great frame to keep because we need
no,
more people like this to just keep pushing that. The janitor is just as important as the CFO or CEO, if not more important some days. Especially during
yeah.
COVID, they might have been more important than what
And
I
you'd be
was.
surprised, man. That person that's being janitor has a whole nother job.
Yeah.
This might be his part time. I spoke to one time. I was in the airline industry, and at nighttime, that's when he would usually come. And I would always just talk to him and
Yep.
just very personal conversation with him,
Yeah.
like over time.
Yeah.
And you just don't see that. And people's
Yeah.
like, "Hey, how did you get this?" And I'm like, "Well, I was just talking to the janitor." And I was like, "What?" And I'm like, "Yeah, it's that easy. Just have conversations with people. Do not look down on them." But this man was like, "Nah, man, this is just my nighttime job. I have a whole daytime job."
Right.
He just had
Sometimes
to
they're
provide for his
retired,
kids.
and even if it is their job, that's what their goal. That's what they're doing. They're
Sometimes
working.
providing for kids, Donald.
Right.
I
Yeah.
know I know a man. He was actually one of my managers when I was in the sub shop business, and he's still general manager. And he says at nighttime, 2 3 times a week, he works at another sub shop, but just as a shift manager because he takes that money and that's how he travels with his
Yeah.
family.
Yeah. That's
Sometimes
awesome.
people just do what it is
Right.
best for them and their
Right.
family.
Right.
So don't look at them any type of way. If
We
anything,
shouldn't.
look
Right.
look what he's doing.
We shouldn't judge anybody. It's not our job.
And when we think about the kids or adults now or children with disabilities and the autism spectrum, the amazing things that they're doing. I think I mentioned this last
Mm-hmm.
time to you, and I would always remember it was the Lighthouse of Louisiana or something like that. That
Mm-hmm.
they've created a manufacturing company where everyone that works there has a disability,
Yeah.
whether it's blind, whatever they may look like. They
Yep.
figured out how to
Yep.
get these individuals
Yep.
to work just like everybody else,
Yep.
working on high-powered equipment that me and you are probably scared of
Yeah.
doing,
Right.
and they're
Right.
doing it.
Yep.
So we're just people. We got to figure out how to just maneuver and how to help them
Yes.
live life at their fullest, right? Um,
Right.
what are some of the special things you can say, Donald, when you think about you've been in this space for 30 years? What story comes to mind that you're like, man, I'm happy that I get to do this because of, and give me a story.
I'll give you a couple here if I can.
Yeah.
So there was a gentleman that I worked in a restaurant as a kid, and when I was 15 years old, I took the wrong bus. And back in those days, there wasn't cell phones. I mean, I don't even, I think the phones was a dime. I had no dime. I had no idea what to do. There was no so I stumbled on this guy John, and he was at the bus stop, and he's like, "Where are you trying to go?" And I told him, East Side. He's like, "Ah, my sister has a restaurant up there." He goes, "Get on this bus with me." So me and him got on that bus together, and then from time to time, I worked for that restaurant all through high school. I would run into him, and we would joke. Fast forward like 20 years after, he's living one of our residential programs. And I meet
Wow.
him, and John comes, and we hang out. We go to a few things um, together. Eat lunch together one day, walk in the parking lot, and then he kept telling me he wanted a job. I want a job. I want a job. And then I come to find out John's like 70 years old, and he wanted to stock shelves in a restaurant or a store, like a Hess or something like
Mhm.
that. And I'm like, well, no one's really going to hire him. Like, you always get that second interview, and then it'd be like, oh, they hired someone else.
Yeah.
So we, at the same time, had a job opening for a coffee cart specialist. And I went, me and the HR person, Alyssa, talked, and we're like, well, maybe John could apply. So John applied. He nailed the interview. Like he had them like laughing. And then he joined the business. Our office. He came in 2 days a week. Then he pushed it up to 3 days a week. He changed the whole office because he would bring his kindness. People were buying coffee, and they're like, I don't even drink coffee, but I just want to interact with John. And it went from
Wow.
this guy who was like didn't really want a job or couldn't find a job to like he was like the all star of the place. Like, and if I needed help, we were running a special event. He was there to end of the event, like sometimes 11, 12 o'clock. Me and him would be the last ones cleaning up, and they'd be like, "You go," and he's like 75 years old. So that was a great one. And he would always like would help me by like he sold coffee, and he would know like on Tuesdays, and we'd have a card, and he would know that I wanted a cup, and he'd have it waiting on my desk when I came out of office meetings and stuff. It fixed the way I want it. It was kind of fun.
I love it. I do not have. I have a story very
Yeah,
similar to you getting on the wrong. You say you got on the wrong bus? Is that what it
yeah,
was?
yeah.
Yeah, that happened to me too. So let me tell you, I was a young kid. I was in high school. So I was bussed out to a different high school. So in reality, there was not. I couldn't walk to school. I mean, I could. It would take hours to get there.
Wow, wow.
And so one morning, my mom was very strict. You're not missing school. Do not miss the bus. So this morning, I missed the bus.
Oh,
I'm also blind as hell, Donald. Okay, without my glasses, I can't see
me
anything.
too.
So I go to the bus stop, and what happens in that really early in the morning? I live in Orlando, so really early in the morning, we got these buses that end up going to like downtown Disney.
Hmm.
I didn't know the difference between a downtown Disney and downtown Orlando yet.
Right.
So I get on this bus and it looked a little different. I
Hmm.
see everybody kind of in their housemaid outfits. I realize the bus is on the highway. And it usually is not on the highway. So I
Hmm.
end up in downtown Disney. And all I see is like these numbers, like 1 through maybe 30.
Oh,
So I stand at the number that I thought was my
yeah.
bus. So I'm standing
Right.
here. There's no one there, Donald.
Oh no.
So I'm like, what the heck? So I end up walking around downtown Disney, a young kid with a backpack, probably 15 years old. No one's saying anything to me. I'm scared for my life at this point, right,
Right.
Donald?
Right. Right.
So I did have a cell phone though, so I called the taxi company. I told them I was in downtown Orlando, and nobody came.
No one showed
So then
up.
I see a taxi pull up in the downtown Disney area, and I was like,
Oh,
"Hey man, I called the taxi a long time ago. Like, what's going on?" He said, "Jump in." I said, "All right, I'm on this taxi," and then he tells me it's going to be like 30 something dollars, and I'm
wow.
like, "I don't have that money." I said, "But when I called the taxi, they told me it was going to be this much." But the reason was is I wasn't saying downtown Disney, I was saying
Right.
downtown Orlando.
Right. Right.
So he's trying to pull off in the middle of the highway. I'm like, I cannot get off here.
Right. Right.
Listen, schools have like six period. I didn't show up to school until fifth period.
Wow.
My mom never believed me. She
Oh
says,
wow.
"This is not like I don't know what the fake story you're telling me." I never called my mom. The
Oh
way she
no.
found out was attendance and all the other stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, man, being blind is also not a good thing,
No.
Donald. Because if I had my glasses, I would have known the bus number was
Right.
not the one I should have been on.
Right.
I ended up having to go to one bus
Oh
and switch
no.
onto another bus to end up in downtown Orlando to then and it was so many bus rides.
Oh
I should have
no.
just stayed home. Oh man. You said you had another story. You want to share
You
this
learned
story
the
with
other
us?
lesson, right? You learned a lesson from that, right? You got
Oh,
to be careful.
100%. Make sure I make
Uh,
make sure I make my school bus and stop missing it.
right?
You said you had another story?
Sure. The other story I have is, like I was saying, we have a lot of people, with a lot of different needs, and some unfortunately, have more needs than others, and um, we also have short staff. So I was required. I was on Admin Beeper. I'm visually blind too. I actually don't even drive.
Really?
So I've made it to the CEO without being able to drive. And there was a particular occurrence where I was on beeper, and what we made a decision is whoever's on beeper has to go to the ER if someone has to go to the ER because we didn't have enough
Mm-hmm.
staff. So I also have a finance background. I'm a human person, but I have a finance background. So I go to the ER and meet one of our individuals who we had to take by ambulance because I couldn't drive the organization vehicle to get there. So I got in, and the individual was in the room at the time. and he's like going like this and I like this, and I'm like, oh, he must be cold. So silly me, I like go to the front desk and I'm like, do we have like a warm blanket or something? My individual I'm working with is cold, and I go in with the blanket and I put it on him, and of course he looks at it like this and he like throws it right back at me, and I'm like, oh, that's weird. Like, all right, well maybe he's not cold. So then, we interchange it. The doctors come in. They were waiting for a script for like his eyes or something. They're like, I think he had pink eye, and we're waiting and waiting and waiting forever. So then finally, like he like points and he's like, oh, I'm like, oh, maybe he wants his jacket. So he puts his jacket on, and next thing you know, he's got a jacket on. He starts wheeling out the door. I'm like, wait, wait, no, no, no. So it taught me a lot to be humble. That even though I may be the CEO, like I may not be able to put myself in every situation. I
That
might
is
need
so cool.
some
So
coaching.
you've been CEO and you said you don't drive. Is that life? Like that's what life?
That's life. Yeah, I've been visually impaired. I can't really judge distances and things. I mean, they would probably give me a license if I can memorize the words and things like that. And God bless my wife and my kids and my coworkers in the community. And one of the things that result of that is because I don't drive, you couldn't be a direct support professional with us if you didn't have a driver's license. And one day I challenged the team. I'm like, well, I can make it the CEO and not have a
Yeah.
license. We got to figure this out. And we opened that up. We have some great plans to be able to help people get their license. Now they don't have their license for a different reason than I don't have my license. Unfortunately, some of those individuals don't have the license because of economics, and
Yeah.
their families never owned a vehicle, or they never had the opportunity to drive a vehicle. So our whole plan, COVID kind of threw a wrench in it, but we're getting there, is bring someone on without a license, help them figure out how to get a license, and then help them
Mhm.
support them get that first car. Because transportation is so vital to individuals, right?
It is. It is. My sister, she is 33 years old and doesn't drive yet. And it was an incident when we were young kids. I had bought a car, maybe 16 years old. It just sat in my driveway, so we should pull it out the driveway, put it in the
Mm-hmm.
driveway. And then one day she just hit the garage door,
Oh no.
and that's kind of scared her for life. So
Yeah.
now she is 33 years old. She
Yeah.
got three kids, and we
Yeah.
tell her like, you have to learn how to drive
Mm-hmm.
because it is very
It
crucial.
is very.
But you know what? What an amazing story for you as well, Donald, to say that you got to the CEO
Yeah.
seat without a license.
Yeah.
Like people would look at you like, what?
Yeah.
But you are a representation to others, saying, "Hey,
Yeah.
you can do it because look what I've been
Yeah.
able to do."
Yeah.
Wow, what a
Face
story, Donald. Your
face the
story even gets better.
fears, face the fears, and just try to push through. And I'm blessed. I'm blessed with a lot of people that have been very great to me. They help me pick me up in the morning, bring me to meetings. The organization also helped me with like Uber and Lyft now, so it makes it a lot easier if there's something I have to get to and I can't find another way.
What an amazing story, Donald. Like you just became even more amazing. Like you were already amazing, but now to just
Right,
know that, like that's a story in itself to tell because people probably feel that not being able to drive holds them back,
right.
and it doesn't. You are a true
No,
testament to say it does not.
no,
Like do not let that stop
no.
you from going and achieve. Wow, Donald.
Keep pushing forward.
Hell yeah, hell yeah. No, that's actually really cool,
Yep,
man, because
yep.
now it also shows how much why you have such a big heart.
Mm-hmm.
Because as you mentioned, there were people that helped me
Mm-hmm.
get to the space. I didn't do this on my own,
Right.
right? There was people that helped me, that
Yep.
brought me where I needed to be, that motivate me,
Mm-hmm.
that poured into you. Matter of fact, who are those people outside of your wife and
Yep.
children? Who's the individuals pouring into you
Mm.
all these years?
I think the biggest one first was Mr. Mannering. I was very young when I started working at the restaurant, and he actually kind of gave me confidence and things like that. I mean, my dad died when I was 14, so he's like, "You're struggling," and like, well, "What's this all about?" Type of stuff. He was probably one of the first ones because he gave me hope and a job. And then when I was at college, to reward him, I would come home one weekend a month. I would leave at 10 o'clock at night, take the bus, get into Albany at 5 a.m. Sometimes I would shower, sometimes I wouldn't. Sorry, folks. I would run right to the restaurant and work all weekend because it gave him the opportunity to be off on the weekend, catch the bus on Sunday night, and be back to class on Monday. And he would pay me. He would buy my bus ticket. He was great. Um, I
Work
think
ethic,
actually
man.
Hans was a great mentor. Me and him worked together for 20 some years. He was my CEO, chief operating officer and CEO here. I think there's a whole host of them. I don't know if I can even start rattling them off.
I love your work ethic that you mentioned. Like you don't see that work ethic enough, right? That I'm gonna
Yeah.
go and help my boss. I'm gonna go on the weekend. I'm gonna do that, and that was me too, man. I just love to I love to work. I love to help,
Hmm.
you know. So and it's like we don't see that enough,
No,
right? And as leaders, we definitely try to pour that into others. It's like,
seriously.
don't think that it's just going to happen overnight. This
No.
takes a lot of dedication, a lot of work, a lot of confidence that you mentioned. That's one of
Right.
the biggest things, first things you mentioned was confidence.
Yeah.
Confident in who you are,
Yep.
understanding it's not going to happen overnight. It does take those baby steps, right? Crawl, walk, run. And that's what
Yeah.
we've had to do in these industries. And look where it led you to, Donald. This is truly amazing. I love the story. The story
And
just got better when you told me
no
that.
task is beneath us. It's like
100%.
if I'm
I'll do it
asked for
all.
scrap, we got to take the garbage out. I'll be in the rotation too.
Listen, I was a general manager still cleaning bathrooms, like
There you
letting
go.
my staff
Yeah.
know, like, hey, if I tell you to
Yep.
clean the bathroom, it's because we all clean the bathroom, okay? There's
Right.
not one better than the other
Correct.
here. If
Correct.
I'm cleaning the bathrooms, that means you can clean the bathrooms as
Yes.
well.
Right. Exactly.
Um, I love this. I love this conversation.
Yep.
And I ask you, how can listeners continue to support ARC's mission locally or even nationally?
I think it's very important to advocate for the individuals. We get a lot of our funding, unfortunately, from Medicaid. I know it's a dirty word in some circles, but there's a lot of good that comes out of Medicaid and what we do. But also opening up job opportunities. So we can't shut off the faucets of Medicaid if we're not going to then hire someone with a disability and give them a shot. Or being open to people with disabilities to come into your communities and work and do other things, advocating and listening to our stories. It's all just not about money and fundraising. Sometimes I'll hold events and just talk to CEOs and other business partners just to talk, not even really ask for anything, just to kind of learn about each other. Like,
Mm,
we really should learn more about what's going on in our community, and there's empowering ways that we can help. You were talking earlier about companies. We deal with a group here locally, and they do document scanning. And 70% of their individuals they hire are with disabilities, and it's like a perfect job for them because they're focused on what they can do, and they do it. So it's finding that task that someone can do that would allow them to have a better life and a better future, and give. They don't want to be
yeah.
taken from society either. I always tell a story that John, the same individual I talked with, when he became an employee, he started making money now, right? And we were having a fundraiser, and he came to me. He's like, "I don't want a free ticket. I want to buy my ticket." He goes, "Whatever the price is, whatever everyone else pays." And then that night he was going around telling everyone. A couple people come up. He's like, "He's telling everyone what he paid." I said, "Yeah, because he wants you to know he got a freebie tonight. He's one of you." Right?
I love it. I love it. Um, where's the website? So you guys on website? I would love for people to really see
Sure.
what's going on. Are you guys on social media? What's the
We're on social
website?
media. Facebook is probably more popular, and Instagram. We're at Arc of Rensselaer County. Our website is rentarc.org. You could probably find the link from there. Um, we're doing a lot with social media these days to kind of highlight different stories and different things of what people are doing. There's probably an ARC in every county in New York and across the state, and it's a great organization that was started by parents that wanted their kids included in society, and we still push that mission today.
I love it. Well, Donald, listen, we got to start wrapping it up, but I do
Yep.
have a question that I just
Sure.
curated in my head after you told me some life stories.
Yep.
So, you said your father passed away at an early age, but I can imagine that you are a big believer that your dad has been with you still this whole time,
Still
looking
with me.
down on you.
Yep.
What do you think your dad is most proud of?
I think probably the way I carry myself. He was humble and kind as well. He actually worked three jobs. He was an accountant, a bookkeeper. I think it's probably he was a very religious man. It's probably being humble and kind to people,
Mm, yeah,
and
I
working
love it.
hard. I know he always valued hard work.
So, listen, what's the beautiful part is I feel like you're still carrying your dad's legacy
Thank you.
in a way,
Yeah.
right? The hard working, the never giving up, providing for his family, no matter what the obstacles were. You've overcame adversity.
Yeah.
You know, even losing a parent so early on, we all have a choice in life to make, and some make different decisions. I am one that's been sexually abused, adopted. A biological mom has 10 kids. Biological father has 8 kids, and statistically, I probably shouldn't be across the table from Donald,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Statistically, you probably shouldn't be across the
Right.
table from Ephraim,
Right.
but that we've made the best decisions in our lives to not only better ourselves but to
Right.
better people.
Yeah.
And I think that's the beauty of
Right.
life. I'll tell you what my wife did. A lot of times when we got 2 young kids, so of course the kids start growing older, you start getting rid of toys to get more toys,
Mm-hmm.
unfortunately. But we will normally just take it to Goodwill, and
Mm-hmm.
that's easy, right?
Yep.
However, Goodwill takes these belongings, they resell them sometimes at prices that are outrageous.
Mm-hmm.
So my wife was like, "Hey, should I just take it to like Goodwill or should I take a consignment shop?" And I was like, "How about we just donate it to like a women's shelter?"
Mm-hmm.
And we drove, or she drove, I wasn't with her, but she drove 40 minutes away, and she took like all these books and all these clothes, and the kids were in the car, so she asked the ladies outside, "Hey, can you help me take these? My kids are in the car," and I would, it's kind of hard. So it was mothers that were in this program
Wow.
that helped her, and as they're looking at it, their response was like, "Oh my God, thank you. I
Mm-hmm.
hope that my kid gets to, read some of these books."
Wow. That's
And
awesome.
it's like, man, like
Mm-hmm.
to know that everyone's in a situation.
Yep.
When life is lifing, it doesn't matter the skin color, the race, the sex. It doesn't matter all that.
No.
When life is lifing, a lot of us will see rock bottom, and no matter where you're at. And I've seen people with a master's degree hit rock bottom, pick themselves back up,
Yep.
and go into an organization, that same organization that helped them get back on their feet, and
Mm-hmm.
become directors of those
Yep.
organizations.
That's awesome.
So I love that you always push the limit and
Yeah.
still pushing the limit,
Yeah.
because it's not about us, Donald, and you know that. It's about the
Yep.
people that we serve.
Yep.
It's about the time that we have here on this earth that God has blessed us with
Yep.
to just make a difference. And
Mm-hmm.
you've heard this before. I can only imagine if we leave here and we just change one person's life, we left life better than what we found it.
That's right. Absolutely.
So I love it. I love Donald, who you are as a human, as a man, more
I
importantly
try.
than anything. And just thank you for being so honest and so real in this conversation,
Oh,
man.
thanks for having me on here.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Well, Donald, do you have a blind question for the next leader that you would
I
like to share?
do. As I told throughout my thing, storytelling is very important. It kind of gets to our, So when the path gets dark and you need a light, what story do you turn back on?
That's a hell of a. That's Yeah, you're definitely a storyteller. That's a good one, Donald. That's a good question. I love it. I can't wait to ask that. Well, Donald, thank you so much, guys. If you guys are still watching, make sure you guys do like, subscribe, and comment. Also, check out what Donald is doing. Are you on LinkedIn, Donald?
I am. I am on LinkedIn. Yep.
All right. If you guys want to connect with him directly, make sure you guys
Yep.
check
Sure.
out his
Definitely.
LinkedIn. If not,
Definitely.
if you just want to know what the organization is doing, check out the
Definitely.
website. Make sure you guys check out the social medias. As he's mentioned, Facebook is probably where they're sharing a lot of the insights that's happening on the back end, and how you can continue to stay engaged. There's so many people I can imagine are watching from New York City. Donald is in New York, okay? So make sure you guys show some love. My name is Ephraim. This is Donald. We'll catch you guys on the next one.
All right.
Later.
Thanks a lot. Have a good night.